Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today during our virtual college exploration program. Just a few housekeeping announcements before we get started. You can use the Q&A button on your screen to type your questions to our presenters at any time. Your camera and your microphone are off, so our panelists cannot see or hear you. This is just one of our many different sessions happening, so be sure to check out a full schedule of all the sessions at CACRAO.org. That is CACRAO.org. And this presentation is being recorded and will be available within about a week on the same website at CACRAO.org. So CACRAO.org. Now I'd like to turn it over to our presenters to get us started. Thanks again, everyone.
Thank you so much, everyone. Welcome. I am Andrea Hill. I'm with the admissions office at UNCG. You can see several of my colleagues are joining me here. They're going to get a moment to introduce themselves in just a second. What we want to do is to move over to our slideshow and get ready to present this information to you related to our keys to success. So if you will give me one moment, I will move there and get everything ready for us to rock and roll. There, now we're ready. So this session is designed to give you kind of the general tips in getting through the application process. You should be able to use all the advice that we share today with any school that you're going to be applying to, but certainly with me and my colleagues today, we hope that you're going to give us a look as well. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and jump into it. So first, with my full introduction, Andrea Hill again, the Associate Director of Transfer Recruitment at UNCG. I've listed some of the unique programs on our campus, but there are over 125 different majors and concentrations to choose from. So nursing being one of them. We also have We also have majors in business and education, in fashion design, art, interior architecture, music, many things under the sun. So you will have an opportunity to talk with me and again, the rest of my teammates here. Certainly you've got all of my contact information as far as email, my voice and text. I do encourage you to reach out to me if you have more specific questions about UNCG once we get into the keys for success. So I am very grateful that you guys have chosen to spend some of your time with us. And I'm going to move on to my next person.
Hi, everyone. My name is Kayla Dielap, and I'm the Transfer Admissions Counselor here at North Carolina A&T. So at North Carolina A&T, we are a STEM-focused institution, and we are very family-oriented and transfer-friendly. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out and to contact me. And also some of our most popular majors we have here are mechanical engineering, nursing, geomatics, and kinesiology.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Ryan Wright, admissions counselor and recruiter here at Shaw University, located in Raleigh, North Carolina, and I am so glad to be here with you all today. Some popular programs here at Shaw University are biology, our elementary education program, social work, and also our computer science and computer information system. So if you have any questions, I do look forward to speaking with you. My email and phone number is on the slide below. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Ashley Mari. I'm the Assistant Director of Admissions for William Peace University here in downtown Raleigh. I also am the counselor on campus that works with all of our transfer students and was a first-gen transfer student myself, so have been in your shoes before. As everyone's noted, all of my contact information and my Calendly link where you can schedule a specific appointment with me are all listed below. Some of the popular programs here at William Peace include some unique ones: musical theater, simulation and game design, exercise and sports science, along with education and business being some popular ones as well. We're very transfer friendly here as well, taking up to 90 transfer credits.
Right, and I am Devaney Hemmingway, and I'm one of our assistant directors of admissions at Queen's University of Charlotte. You can see my contact information is on the screen, and I work specifically with our transfer students from Mecklenburg County, international transfer and adults, and then the Triad region. I'll make a note that if you attend a school that's not within this region, you'll be assigned to a specific admissions counselor based off of your most recent institution.
Thanks, everyone. I appreciate you for helping us get started. Just as a point of clarification, we do have the Q&A link, so you can put your questions in that, and we'll be trying to respond to those as we go. We also will have all of our contact information shared again with you at the end of the presentation. So if you did not get a chance to chat, to write down somebody's name or their email or anything else, you'll have a way to be able to connect with us at the end. So now we're going to get into these keys. We're going to talk about the things that you need to know about being successful through the application process as a transfer student. And Ashley is going to kick us off.
So the first key to success is starting early and really knowing where you've been as an applicant and where you're looking to go and what the process is going to look like for you. So as far as knowing yourself as an applicant, when you connect with us as admissions counselors, can only give you the best answers if we have the best information from you about what you're coming to the table with. So things that you should really take a look at and know when you're connecting with us are things like your cumulative GPA over all of the schools that you've gone to. How many credits have you completed? And how many schools have you attended? Are the majority from one that you attended? Are they spread out over 3 or 4 schools? And taking a look at those. And also what majors that you were involved in previous schools versus what you're looking to major in now. If you're coming in with an associate degree in nursing, but now you want to be an English major, that might mean that not all of your credits are going to transfer in quite as smoothly as if you were doing something that's related. And so when you're having conversations and looking, especially to get an idea of what kinds of credits that I have are going to transfer over, how many are going to transfer over, these are really great things to come to the conversation with, because then we can really give you a better evaluation idea of how far along in the process are you and how many of those will successfully transfer into the 4-year institutions that you're looking at. We highly recommend that you connect with your transfer admissions counselors. As you've noticed from our introductions, there's usually at least designated persons or people at each university that really works with students like yourself that are transferring either from community colleges or other 4-year schools. So making sure that you're connecting with the right person at those institutions so that they can really walk you through that process and make it as simple as possible is important. And we're really here to advocate for you. We're here to help you along to make this simple and smooth and to make that transition go as well as we possibly can. So don't feel like you can't reach out, ask questions, get clarification on things. No question is too small. Definitely feel free to touch base with everybody. As far as collecting your documents, there are some people who like to have copies of their official or at least unofficial copies of their documents, which is great, again, to come to those conversations with those items in hand where we can kind of look at things together. The other thing is just being aware of what documents you may need and maybe what roadblocks are kind of in the way. So if you attended a school, for example, that you still owe a balance for, you may not be able to get the official transcript that's required from that school. And so kind of starting that process of looking at where you need to collect documents from can sometimes help you kind of address any of those issues that pop up early on in the process so that you can get them out of the way. And the admissions process for every school is going to look a little bit different, but there's some key questions that you really want to address and you want to ask them. What is required or needed to be considered for admission? Some schools require, pretty much everyone's going to require your official high school, college transcript and an application. Some require high school transcripts, some don't. So you might have to backtrack a little bit, especially if it's been a while since you graduated from high school. Others might want SAT scores or ACT scores if that's applicable or if they're recent. So know what kind of materials you need for each of the schools that you're looking at. Know what their deadlines are, whether they have a hard deadline or whether they're rolling admissions. And I'll say if they are rolling admissions, earlier is still better. Don't leave it until the last minute. It will just make things more stressful for you. You want to make sure that you have time to ask the questions that you want, connect with your advisor, sign up for your classes, talk to financial aid, about your package, have time to really address everything you need to feel comfortable and confident going into your new school. And then also be aware of different departmental requirements as well. So nursing is a great example. You might be applying to a nursing program that might have specific science courses that they're going to have you do as prerequisites before you can be admitted, and making sure that you're meeting those. Or maybe they have additional testing requirements or entrance exams that you have to take. So being aware of departments can also sometimes have their own requirements on top of the general admissions requirements, and making sure that you're looking into those items as well.
Okay. So part of that process, once you've applied and you hopefully get accepted, is then understanding how your credits are going to transfer from your first school or maybe combination of schools to this new school that you're interested in right now. In most cases, again, you've got people like me and the rest of these folks that are here that can talk with you about that process. We may not be able to do the full evaluation of telling you exactly where you're going to stand, exactly how long it's going to take you to graduate, but at least on the front end, having a general idea of whether or not the majority of your credits are going to transfer in or not. So there's a few differences there's a few things we need to consider as far as differences in transferring credit from a 2-year school, community college, junior college, however it may be referred to in your area, and then coming from a 4-year school, a bachelor's degree awarded institution, and how that process is going to work. A lot of the schools in North Carolina will have a limit as far as how many credits they can accept from a 2-year school. And that general number is somewhere around 64. That's about the equivalent of an associate's degree, whether that's an associate of arts or an associate of science degree. If you're coming from a 4-year school, many colleges will accept all of your credit and then be able to apply all of that towards your degree. I will say that in most cases, there's going to be a minimum number of credits you're going to have to attempt on that campus before the new bachelor's degree can be awarded. So if you come in with a bunch of credits already completed and thinking that it's only going to take you 5 or 6 classes to graduate, that may not always be the case. And again, that is where people like myself and the rest of the team here would be helpful as a part of that application process and that understanding your transfer credit. When you're looking at your courses, there's likely going to be a difference between traditional transfer credits and then technical credits, things that are typically more job-based, career-based, things like that. And that usually means that those courses were taken under an Associate of Applied Science degree. And we're going to talk about that a little bit more in just a minute. But when you think of the traditional college transfer courses, think, your English, your math, your science, your social sciences, humanities, things where the 4-year campus is likely going to have a equivalent course that they can offer you. So if you have a freshman literature class, the likelihood that we could offer a equivalent course to freshman literature is really, really high. When you've taken something like welding, as an example, I know welding gets picked on a lot. It's an important, job function, and I'm glad that we've got those folks out there. But as a 4-year campus, I don't have any credits that I could offer similar to that. So that's where the equivalent piece is going to be important. In the general sense, you need C's or better in all of your transfer credits in order for them to transfer to a 4-year campus. If it's anything less than that, it's not likely that anyone is going to be able to offer you credit for that course. Having a C or better shows successful completion of it, and then we can work on awarding that credit. Depending on the program that you're going into, they may have a requirement for certain classes that must have a certain grade in order for you to move forward. Nursing is an example that I can think of. They may have a certain requirement that you must have a B or a B plus or whatever it may be in a specific course in order to be able to transfer that class into that program. And again, that is where the admissions counselors can help with some of that process. If that school has received a lot of credit from a school or a combination of schools before, they may have a published guide or a plan that will show you how your credits will transfer in and then be applied into your major. So again, be sure to ask us, hey, if I'm going to be transferring from XYZ community college, can you show me all the credits that may transfer in? Or can you show me all the credits that you guys have accepted before, especially if it's coming from a 4-year school? And pre-advising appointments can also be important. This is an opportunity where you can meet with us one-on-one, bring your unofficial transcripts, lay it all out on the table, and we will often be able to give you that general sense of, hey, things look really good for you in the process. Here's how many credits I think you're going to receive. And then we can give you those next details on, what's going to happen next, what you should be doing next in the application process. So Gordon was telling us, let us be a help, contact us, let us be questions, let us answer your questions. We want to do everything we can to make the process smooth for you. Now, I talked about the applied science degrees briefly, and typically these degrees are going to fall more in those career-based areas. So some of the examples I can think of: medical assisting, sonography, radiography, respiratory therapy, nuclear medicine, things of this nature. So those programs are typically designed for students to go directly into a job or into a career. In many cases, a very high-paying career because of the specialized knowledge and the specialized skills that you will have obtained along the way. But because of the technical nature of their delivery of the things that you've learned, there may not always be matching courses on a four-year campus. But in some cases, schools have created these articulation agreements or understandings or some sort of agreement between a community college and a four-year school that says, if this student will come to my campus and if they will go into a related area, we will try to offer them as much credit as possible towards their degree. So some of the examples that I can think of, nursing is a great example. They have a statewide agreement that says you will be awarded up to 60 credits by finishing your associate's degree in the state of North Carolina. So regardless if that school doesn't have an exact matching course, they've already done the work on the back end that says we will accept your credits in this way, and they will then be able to get you further along in your degree program. Business may be another example. Interior architecture is another example. But again, this is where connecting with a counselor on your campus can be helpful so that we can then tell you that information up front so that you can use that as a part of your decision-making process. So maybe Kaylin over at A&T might be able to offer you more credit than I might offer. And if that's going to have a huge impact on, how quickly you're going to be able to graduate, and it's basically the same major, you're going to make that decision. I'm going to go to A&T. I'm not going to go to UNCG. And that would be great for you. It's terrible for me, but that's okay. I want you to go and get as much credit as you can, move towards that degree. And that's going to be the best pathway for you. So having an opportunity to ask those questions up front, find out if that school is going to accept more of your credit, that's going to put you on a really strong path of making sure you're going to maximize your time and maximize that process by choosing a school that's going to offer you more credit for your degree rather than less.
Alrighty, so we talked a little bit about some of the application process, kind of transfer process. Now let's talk about how we're going to pay for this. So with the key to financial aid is going to be applying early for it because there is priority filing. Make sure that you do submit your FAFSA application. Each institution is going to have a specific institution code, so that way you just put that school code in there and it'll send it out. You can add up to 10 schools at one time on your FAFSA, and a lot of questions that I get at sometimes is like, will it mess up my financial aid at my current institution if I add another school? No, it will not. Just add the school to there. Some of the different types of things that you'll be considered for when you submit the FAFSA, there will be loans such as unsubsidized as well as subsidized loans. The difference between the two of those is that unsubsidized, you are not paying interest on it while you're in school. Subsidized interest is being collected while you're in school. As for grants, there could be any federal Pell grants that you get, any need-based aid and grants could also be considered from the FAFSA. There's also something called forgivable education loans for service. These are typically like your human services type. There's the teaching one where they pay for you to go to school and then you just be able to just work for the school system for however many or so years. There's also the nursing kind of forgivable education loan. So as long as you are working in the nursing career at such and such for however many years it is, the loans will tell you the specific criteria within that application process. So as far as institutional aid go, every every college and university is going to be a little bit different with how they award with just make sure that you contact the school specifically with your admissions counselor, and they'll let you know how transfer scholarships work for you. Now, there's also the other piece of external scholarships. It's going to take some legwork on your part, but really make sure you look and do your research for those. There's millions of dollars in scholarship money that goes unawarded every year just because people don't apply for it. Apply for the ones that range from $50 scholarships, $500 scholarships. There's scholarships if you're left-handed. There's scholarships, you know, if you're a minority student, things of that nature outside. So just make sure you're really doing your research to kind of figure that. There's fastweb.com, there's Scholly app. You can go to scholarships.com. If you just Google scholarships for such and such and such, Google will give you lots of research on those. There's also military benefits. So for those of you who are using your GI Bill, if you're wanting to use the VOC rehab benefits, the key with that is to make sure you actually apply for those and to make sure that you are eligible to utilize those. So if you have questions with that, you can definitely contact the VA certifying official at each of the school's financial aid offices, and they'll be able to kind of help you through that. There's also the tuition remission. So let's say that you are a child of someone who works at a college or university, or a spouse. Some institutions will have that tuition remission for you. And then tuition reimbursement is typically employers who are paying for you to go to school, who will like reimburse you for up to a certain amounts. For some, it'll range varied based off of the company. The next slide. All right, so last but not least, I want to hit on the adult learners. The number one key with this is don't be afraid of the return. I know this process can be scary with you maybe raising your families first and then coming back to doing your education, or maybe, you know, starting your degree for the first time. No matter where you are in that process, schools are more than willing to work with you, even if you've performed poorly in the past. We understand that you're not the same student that you were when you were in high school, and we understand that life happens during things. So again, talk with your admissions counselor, and we'll be here and happy to listen to your story, as well as to kind of help you with our particular institutions. Some additional items that schools may give are interviews. So that way, let's say you did perform very poorly and you haven't really done any coursework since then, this will just be a conversation that you guys could have to maybe learn a little bit more about you as a student, next steps, things of that nature. There are grace periods, recent coursework, as well as life changes. Ask about online degree completion programs. So as we know, as a working adult, there are lots of things that you may be balancing. So if the online is the best option for you, definitely check to make sure that institution has that for you. And then ask about the adult student population. I want you to know you're probably not going to be the only adult student at the school. You can find your tribe and your community there. So again, just ask about those resources that are available for you.
All right, so student veterans and military affiliated students. So find out who your veterans representative is on campus. They are like your liaison. They're prepared to advise and counsel you in regards to any veteran or educational concerns. Also find out, is there a VA certifying officer, and that person can provide you guidance on how to certify and register and report that enrollment to the VA. Also find out if there are any veteran resources like on or even off campus. So for example, there's troops to teachers. So for veterans that are wanting to be a part of the public or private school system, there's an organization out there for you, Wounded Warrior Project. So just make sure you're looking on the school's website and checking for those on and off campus resources. Also, if you want like a sense of community, find out if there are any clubs or organizations so that you can be a part of that with other student veterans and military affiliated students. Also see if there are any additional documents that you need, such as the DD-214 or joint services transcript, and make sure you apply early. Some campuses actually have a designated person that is affiliated with student veterans, and also a certain office that students can go to. So make sure you check for that.
All right, so some ways of getting involved as a transfer student. Of course, your campus belongs to you too. Once you take the picture for your student ID, that campus belongs to you. So make sure you get involved. The campus involvement is a very critical part to your college experience. And coming from a former student body president is very important. So check with your campuses. Make sure you attend new student orientation, or if they have a transfer student orientation, make sure you're going to those, asking questions, um, looking for transfer student groups on campus. Talk to students that are in your class to see what groups or organizations are out there, which groups take adult learners as well. You can still join different organizations such as Greek Life, academic, excuse me, academic sororities, fraternities, social groups, things of that nature. You can also still participate in NCAA athletics. So make sure you're following NCAA guidelines. Make sure you're talking to your coach. If you want to play football, make sure you're reaching out to the football coach or the recruiting staff to make sure that you are eligible to join that team. Club sports as well. Each school has different club sports that you can join that's not necessarily through NCAA or maybe intramural sports, but make sure you get involved in those as well. So just make sure when you're choosing schools that you're looking for um, programs outside of just academic life. Make sure that make sure, excuse me, make sure that you're making friends as well, getting to know your professors, things of that nature, admissions counselors. They may have the tools for you to join these organizations. So just make sure you get involved on campus.
All right. So we have all of our contact information listed here on the screen. You've got very easy ways to be able to reach out to the individual offices for everybody who has participated here. And this is where we're now going to get into our Q&A. So if you haven't already, go into the Q&A box, put your questions in there. We've got a couple already that we are going to be sharing with the group. But before we get into all that, I'm just going to run through a quick recap of all the things that we shared as far as these keys for success, things that are going to make you sail through this application process easier than you may have thought. The first one we talked about is starting early, giving yourself plenty of time that if something goes awry, if a document gets missing, if you need some extra help or extra attention, the more time you have to get those things done, the better for you. Transfer credits, you got to understand that process and having somebody to help you know what's going to transfer in, what may not transfer in, and exactly how that's going to set you up for success. And especially when thinking about your timeline, you know, time is money, and the faster that we can help you to get finished and completed with the degree and on to your goal, your next step, your dream, the faster that can happen, the better it is for you and the less money out of your own pocket. Speaking of money, we talked about financial aid, so we want to make sure that you have plenty of time to apply for that, both your internal scholarships, internal awards, external things that you may be bringing along with you. And then we talked about our adult learners and student vets, the idea that, you know, the process may be a little bit different, but there is a space, there is a tribe, as Devaney said, which I love that idea, on that campus of folks that you can connect with who are living a similar life to you, and you all can support each other as you're moving through. And Ryan closed us out and talking about getting involved. I feel very strongly about stuff like that, mainly because I think in some cases transfer students can feel like they're not a part of the campus. You know, it's like I'm coming here to finish up my degree and get out of here, but my identity lies and lives somewhere else. What we don't want to do as the school where you may be finishing up is to take away that identity. So you starting at a community college or another school, you know, you went there for a reason. And hopefully you had a really, really good experience there. But for whatever the circumstances are, now you're planning to be with me or with one of these other schools. to finish up. And we want you to retain that identity, but we also want you to connect with this campus as well. And we want to make sure that you understand and know that it belongs to you, that all the stuff that's there on that campus is for you, it's built for you, and we want you to participate and take advantage of it. So if you've taken all those things to heart, I think you're going to be in really, really good shape, regardless of where you decide to go. That being said, let's go over, I think I saw some questions come through. Let's start with our first question here. And Devin, I'm gonna let you start because it kind of touches on what you talked about. How do I apply for the forgiveness program for service? Is it done by each school, or is it a federal-based program like the FAFSA?
So it is going to be, I would say it's more so like a state-based program. Per that, for students in North Carolina, you can apply through cfnc.org. And again, that's C as in cat, F as in Frank, and then NC as in North Carolina.org. And then that will walk you through when the application process, usually the application date opens the first Monday in December, and then the deadline is usually around March 1st. And then you can kind of look at the criteria for each of those there. If you are a South Carolina student, I'm not as familiar with that, but shoot me an email and I'll be happy to get an answer back to you about what that process would look like.
That's awesome. The next question, is it too early to apply for a college? And when let's see, me trying to make sure I got this right. I guess they're trying to figure out, when will applications close? When would it be too late for me to be able to apply? Anybody want to start us off?
I can start us off on that one. I'd love to say it's never too early to apply, but that's not always 100% true. For example, if you just graduated in this fall, for example, is your first semester in college at all, I would love, especially if you're applying to the following fall, I would love to see your semester grades from this year and make a decision based on that, since that's really going to be the most recent and accurate representation of your abilities right now as a student. So that's something to kind of keep in mind. But as far as, timing, keep an eye out, because different schools will have different deadlines. As I mentioned, some will have hard deadlines that you definitely need to check out and meet and make sure everything is in. That deadline also generally means that your whole application file has to be completed by that time. So if the deadline, for example, is March 1st, it doesn't mean that you just submit your application necessarily on March 1st, and then you go through the other steps of submitting documents, doing interviews, if those are required, or doing those other steps. You ideally want to make sure everything is completed. It's been processed by the school by that deadline. So keep that in mind. Otherwise, you'll hear schools that have rolling admissions, and they will often work right up until the start of classes with you. But again, I'll emphasize earlier is better, because it will take a lot of the stress off of you for sure.
I don't think I could have said that any better. Anybody else got anything to contribute there? That was really good. Thank you so much. All right, let's jump to our next question. Oh, this is really good. It is believed that living on campus helps students be more successful. Do you advise adults in maybe their mid-20s, transfer students, to live on campus as well? I'm gonna let that one marinate for a second, because I know everybody's gonna have ideas on it. Kaylin, you look like you're ready to go.
Yeah, I would say for me, I actually transferred and I would say I was successful like living on campus. I feel like it honestly depends on like your personality type. Like if you want like the full college experience and to be in the heart of campus, I would say go for it. And I know some people like being commuter students and just commuting on campus. But for me, I think I was more successful actually living on campus. I was able to get out, meet people, and to join some clubs. So I think it honestly depends on the person, but I really love living on campus.
Yeah, I would co-sign to that as well. I was a resident student at UNCG for 4 out of my 5 years. And one of the years that I was there, I took summer classes, and I distinctly remember running into a guy. He was probably in his late 40s, mid 50s. and kind of ran into him, and we sat and chatted for a minute and found out that he was a former Navy guy and was living on campus for the summer, taking classes, and it seemed to work perfectly fine for him. But I also have met folks in their early 20s, mid 20s who are in, long-term relationships, or they've got, pets and kids and things like that, and living on campus just wasn't an option for them, at least for my particular campus. So it may be different from some of my colleagues, and I'll ask you guys to chip in if you have something that might work for them. But in those cases, it really came down to a matter of practicality. It was just not practical for folks to live on campus when they had young children. But for most of us, let me not say most of us, I would say for a lot of schools that are centrally located in a city, finding local campus housing that will be able to accommodate you that is also close to campus should be relatively easy. I think there are a lot of places, especially in Greensboro, that have built up specifically trying to recruit college students, and not just my college students. They've set up in such a way where they can say, hey, Greensboro College, Guilford College, A&T, UNCG, all you guys can come and live here. And many of those places are now running shuttles to get students back and forth to campus. So you don't even have to move your car, so that you can take advantage of those resources. So I think Kayla hit it on the nose. It's going to be different for everybody, but if you're interested in it, don't be afraid of it is probably what I would add. All right, next question. I attend a 2-year college now. Should I complete my associate's degree, or can I transfer without getting the degree?
I will kind of start us with that question. Honestly, I would say it's going to be completely up to you. Most colleges will accept transfer students that have a minimum of whatever that specific number for the college and university is worth of transfer credits. I would just encourage you, just to save money on the front end, go ahead and complete that associate's degree at the community college. So then that way you can transfer right into the major coursework or apply to that major, right out of your community college transition. Again, it just saves you some money on the front end of things and will help set you up from that way.
I'll add to that really quickly too. There's some colleges that on top of the savings that you get from, like Devaney was saying, the front end and just saving some money by going and completing so many credits at the community college, there are some schools also who offer scholarships for students that have completed, associate's degrees and things like that and are looking to transfer after the fact. So you might find some other financial benefits to that as well. And as we mentioned earlier, where there's so many articulation agreements and transfer packs and things like that, all of these schools are a part of, you might find that to be the most beneficial, cost, and as far as just completing a great chunk of credits, maybe that's closer to home or a little bit easier to get to, things like that. But that overall, it really is up to you. And certainly you can transfer without it before you hit that point.
Yeah, those are all excellent points. I will add one caveat is that there are a few programs out there that may have specific courses that you must take on that college campus in order to qualify. I will toss out UNCG social work program as an example. Students must take the intro to social work class, and currently there is not an equivalent at any of the 2-year schools here in North Carolina. So that would be a case where if you contacted me early enough and say, hey, I'm on track to finish my associate's degree, I would say, hey, stay there, get it done, save that money. But if you have any opportunity to connect with us during the summer and take that course while you're finishing the associate's degree, that will just set you up for a smoother transfer in. So I think the majority of the time, the vast majority of the time, finishing the degree is to your benefit, but it's still worth reaching out to us to ask that question. If you're going into a specialized program, to find out, is there anything I should be taking now, or is there anything I need to take with you now in order to make sure that when I transfer, I can go directly into my program? All right, next question. This one is really, really good. How do we inquire about the reverse degree completion programs? Is this something that we apply for at our current college or the college we're transferring into, or both? So who out there has reverse transfer programs to help students finish their associate's degree? And can anybody speak on that for our student? Anybody? All right, I will jump on it then. I know that reverse transfer is not universal to the state of North Carolina or South Carolina. I wouldn't tell you to inquire at the school that you're going into. For those not familiar, the reverse transfer process basically says that if you transfer to a four-year school prior to finishing your associate's degree, the likelihood that you're going to take these same types of classes on that four-year campus to finish out is still pretty high. You know, the associate's degree in and of itself is supposed to be basically the equivalent of the first 2 years of your bachelor's degree. So again, your English, your math, your science, your humanities types things. So if you transfer ahead of time without that, most of the time you're going to have to fill in those courses, those general education courses on that four-year campus. So some schools have agreements where you can take your courses from your four-year school, they will send them back to the two-year school. And if those courses can fill in what was necessary for you to earn your associate's degree, it will be awarded to you. And you don't have to worry about going back to that school. So let's look at that and how in an example. So let's say you're at 45 hours and you just got to transfer right now to your four-year campus. So we're going to make that school B. But you are almost done with the associate's degree at school A. School B, the four-year school, sends your transcript back to school A at the end of every semester. And if those courses that they send back can fill in those last 15 hours, school A will award you your associate's degree. So they get the benefit of now saying they've got one more graduate in their program. So cool. They're happy. They get another student completion. You as the student, you're happy because now you've got your associate's degree. So that now sets you up to be able to send that degree back to the four-year school, and maybe that gets some waivers applied for you or some additional transfer credit that can be applied, maybe moves you a little bit closer to graduation, but it also may change the type of jobs you may be applying for if you're working during college. So now being a degree completion student, there may be some jobs that you can get into that you couldn't get without having a degree. And then all the national research says that you are more likely to finish your bachelor's degree because you finished your associate's degree. So more benefits to you. For us at the four-year campus, if any of that degree helps you get a couple of waivers or a couple more classes closer towards graduation, that helps us to make sure that we get you as a degree completer. And again, the research says that if you finish that associate's degree, you're more likely to graduate from us anyway. So literally everybody wins in this process. So start that conversation with the school you're transferring into, and then they should be able to help you navigate what process needs to be completed to make sure that that happens for you. So there's that. All right. Next question. Is it better to apply as a transfer student with a kind of a general plan, or should I wait and apply in a later semester and go straight into the program? So I guess they're thinking about maybe something that has prerequisites. Should I come in and start some classes on that campus, or should I finish all the prerequisites first and then transfer directly into my program? I think I'm interpreting that right. For the student, if I'm not quite getting that right, please type that question again and make sure that I'm reading it the right way. So transfer now and finish up some prereqs and go into my program, or transfer later with all my prereqs met and go straight into my program. What do you guys think?
I think this kind of touches on some of the same points we talked about earlier when we were discussing potentially transferring with your associate's degree or without your associate's degree. There may be benefits for you to just stay at the college that you're at or the community college that you're at and complete, those credits or those prerequisites for that specific program there and then transfer them in. But as Andre pointed out, you also might run into certain classes that are being given within that program that you ultimately need to take at the school that you're transferring into. And so it might be more beneficial in that case to transfer in a little bit, earlier rather than later. So a lot of those same sort of points apply, and it will also sometimes depend on the program. So something that's highly structured where you're starting to take specific required classes, right from say your sophomore year, is not going to give you as much leniency to take some of those gen eds and other classes at a community college without potentially losing a little bit of time or having to add some time onto the back end. Whereas something like English that's a little bit more broad or generally will be able to pull in more credits, more elective spaces and things like that, you might have more room to kind of play around and stay in a more general program before deciding on a major. You know, something like nursing, you're going to have to start taking classes very early on to get through all the required courses by the time you graduate. So if you came in kind of as a general person already having completed, say, 2 years at a community college, then that might be a little tougher. Whereas it might have been more beneficial for you to transfer early and get right on track with those sooner.
Thank you, Ashley. I'm going to try to grab this last question really quick. You touched on summer classes. Do you allow students to move in on campus during the summer? Yes. I think just about all of us will allow you to come and live on campus in the summer. The short answer is to contact us about deadlines, and we will cover both admissions deadlines and housing deadlines for summer. So reach out to us individually, and we can dig into that a little bit further. Squeeze it in. All right.
Sorry, press the wrong button. All right, well, everyone, thank you so much for joining us today. Participants, when you close this window, there'll be a link to a very quick 4-question survey. Any feedback that you have on these programs is greatly appreciated, so please do submit that survey. Also, this session is just one of the many sessions that is being offered this week and for the next couple of weeks. So do check out all other sessions at CACRAO.org. That's CACRAO.org. And last but not least, in about a week, this recording will actually be accessible on the CACRAO website. So we encourage you, if you need a refresher, definitely check out that recorded video as well as all of our other recorded sessions. Once again, thank you guys so much for attending, and thank you panelists, and I hope everyone has a great day.